Steve, really quick, we love to be adaptive here. My dogs are barking in the background because my brother's starting the four-wheeler outside my house. And so, Steve, would you real quick share, because I think it is so relevant to what we're talking about today, would you share about Partnerscapes with the community collaboratives effort that you guys are doing right now?
Sure.
Put the
Be
link
glad
to
to.
that in the chat. I love it.
Go chase those dogs. Uh, so Partnerscapes, for those of y'all that might not have heard about us, we're a national landowner-led group that been around as a volunteer organization since about 2008, and as an organization with one employee since 2013. And we work specifically on the people side of conservation, the relationships, partnerships, and communication and outreach around that makes conservation go. At different diverse perspectives working together around a shared vision. And we were started out of the Blackfoot Challenge model in Western Montana of community-led conservation to try to transfer that way of working more broadly across the country through education, outreach, and communication. Still have a board, all of landowners from, I think I'm at 17 states now. We've had a board member in California. Dina Moore was one of our founding board members. We don't have a board member in California as current, but every one of the board members is involved in some level of collaboration and partnership in the community where they live. So we always get told when we talk to people in agencies or that are outside sort of this sphere, they always say, you guys need to share the story more. So really our story is a story of what many of you are involved in, which is different perspectives coming together to get good things done for agriculture, forestry, and natural resources on the ground. And so a couple of months ago, we started thinking about, well, why don't we just shine the light on, since there's a lot of people that don't understand this work, particularly in the policy sphere, or once you get past the people that are in the community of practice, to try to bring together a bunch of, we've created a link page on our website, sort of an enhanced link page that we're calling Profiles in Collaborative Conservation, where we have it organized, have the ability to organize it by state. And yeah, thank you. And we're just getting started with the first few collaboratives. Everybody's busy, but what we're asking collaboratives to provide is just first, if they want to be featured here. Second, if it's okay to link to their website, if they have a picture they'd like to use, and if they've got a video, podcast, some other story map, whatever, that sort of shares the origin story of where they came from and why they do what they do. And we write up just a little header, as you see on the page there. As so each one of these links has its own page. But we work with what's on the website and then ship it back to whomever we're working with at the collaborative to say, hey, does this look like what you would like to see represented? It doesn't connotate a direct relationship or membership or anything like that in Partnerscapes. It's just a place to share the story where we can give this link to anybody that says, what exactly are you talking about? And we can say, here, take a look at people that are doing this all around the West and eventually all around the country. So thanks for letting me share that, Bree.
Yeah, thank you. It's really exciting. And it's great because one of the groups that we're going to be talking about today is already featured on here, Win at ACES. Yeah, Siskiyou County folks, if you're interested, we can connect you up with Steve or just get connected right now. So, okay, this is great. I'm gonna pop over to this other. Welcome. This is the second in a series of discussions we are having. And this is being hosted by the California Grazing Lands Coalition and the Rangeland Conservation Coalition and California Rangeland Trust. So real quick, want to say thanks to Robin Hanson, the programs manager at the Rangeland Trust, and to Alex Carroll, the coordinator for the California Grazing Lands Coalition, and to Karen Sweet, the director at the California Rangeland Conservation Coalition that most of you know. So this came about, we wanted to talk about how to get better at communication, partnerships, collaboration, and the best way to do that is to share examples. We started out, the first one in March was kind of a framework that many of you are familiar with now, situation, problem, solution, and some collaborative efforts from ranchers kind of reflecting on that framework. And now we're really going to go into a couple examples of community collaboratives, one based here in California up north of Siskiyou County, and the other one from Eastern Montana with Winnett Aces. And this is going to be, we're just going to have a conversation. So we switched over from webinar format to meeting format to make it more interactive. So please, you guys put questions, comments in the chat. Also raise your hand if you want to come off mute. We would love it, and we'll get into some conversation. But we'll let these two groups kind of share some of their story and about their communities first off. Go. So real quick, a little bit of grounding too. This whole concept of a stewardship economy, and this is from Will Our Resources. And if you have been on a conversation with me lately, you've probably seen this because I am just like talking about it everywhere because I think it is so important. And I feel like the framing of this, it's what we have been talking about. It's what we've been striving for years. This is really like the whole effort put into this nice, concise definition. And so I'm excited about it for that. So just a stewardship economy and all that that entails, from the top of the watershed to the bottom, all aspects of the community, that it is about land health and community health and a thriving economy. And that is all of the direct, resource industries that we have in these rural communities and rural landscapes. But it's also all of those allied aligned industries, all the way from trucking, schools, having teachers in our communities, the whole gamut. And I think we're going to hear a little bit about that from these two groups of how they're looking at that broader landscape, broader community, going beyond the working lands and to really the health of the whole community. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Corey and Emma to introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. My name is Corey Hayden, and I'm joined by Emma Morris here in Siskiyou County at the top of the state of California. And things look different in Siskiyou than they do in the rest of the state. We're highly agricultural, high alpine, high country, snow, four seasons elevation. And we're just really proud of our work, and we can't wait to share more today. But as an economic development organization, how we have built a collaborative with several stakeholders with agriculture at the table, because even though we are called economic development, we find ourselves to be great champions for agriculture because that's one of our major industries here. So we can't wait to share and encourage all of you that if you have an economic development arm or engine, that they can be turning their focus towards agriculture. And it's so nice to meet everyone, and I'll let Emma say hello as well.
Yeah, my name is Emma Morris, and I work with Corey at the Siskiyou Economic Development Council. We're a nonprofit economic development council because our rural county just doesn't have the resources for each jurisdiction to, have their own economic development council. So like Corey said, we kind of span a big range, maybe that most economic development councils might not touch. I work as a program manager here, and also when Bree and I were first talking about this webinar, I told her I wear many hats, which I'm sure is true of all of us on this call. I'm also a sixth-generation rancher in Etna, California, which is a tiny little town in Siskiyou County. And I'll leave it at that, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's a snapshot of what's coming today.
Thanks, ladies. Okay, I'll turn it over to Brenda and Jennifer from Eastern Montana.
I can go ahead and jump in. So my name is Jennifer Solf. I am the Education and Outreach Coordinator for Winnet ACES, and ACES stands for Agricultural Community and Enhancement, and Sustainability. We are a grassroots nonprofit organization, like Bree already mentioned, located in the central/eastern kind of region in Montana. It seems like we're pretty much right in the middle. And we really are focusing on keeping working lands in working hands. Overall mission is to strengthen our community by further enhancing the health of our land, economy, and traditions for our future generations. We are a pretty small county or area. So Winnet is the county seat of Petroleum County here in Montana. And in the whole county, there's about 500 people. In the town of Winnet, there's probably about 100 people. So our specific base area might be pretty small, but we are, really excited about all of the projects and further impact that we get to visit with all of you about today. And Brenda will probably be able to provide a little bit more of the demographics / overall rangeland composition.
Sure. I'm Brenda Brady. I ranch north of Winnet, and I'm on the board for Winnet ACES. And I guess we're primarily agricultural based, but also recognize a real important piece of that is the local economy. And so when Winnet ACES got started, it started with a group of ranchers just coming together to discuss some concerns about the area and mostly how do we keep like Jennifer was saying, how do we keep working lands and working hands, but also how do we keep people coming back to our community. And so ranch transitions and that type of thing have been a real important topic. And we can get into that more later, but that was kind of the basis of the beginning of ACES, and then it just grew from there as people brought different ideas and concerns, and realizing that it was more than just the ranch lands and that side of things, that the community was very key to all of that. So that's the beginning.
Do you guys want to keep sharing a little bit more about the community? And I'll roll through kind of, we have some photos here just to show you guys, to give you some context for the landscape and the community. And then we'll go back, and Corey and Emma can do the same for Siskiyou County, but we'll go through these slides.
Sure. Jennifer, do you want me to go, or do you?
Maybe we can just kind of take turns. I can talk a little bit on, so this map is just showing a rough outline as to where we have both provided different services, whether that be more technical services, but also completed conservation projects. So we have a cost share program called Rangeland Improvement Program that our conservation programs manager and conservation technician help man that. So that was a most recent map. So we definitely have gone into Fergus County, some of Musselshell County, even into Garfield County. So we're gradually expanding our reach.
And I think kind of going back to our beginnings too, and I appreciate hearing from Steve at the beginning, because the Blackfoot Challenge was very key to our start. We got a lot of support, information, all of that from visiting with people involved. And so I think that the idea of being able to learn from other collaboratives and what they're doing and how they're serving their communities was really, really key for us getting started and learning then also about the resources that are out there and partnerships that we can form. And that has really helped us to grow, not just as an organization, but in the area that we're serving too, and learning what the needs are in that area. With our low population, we have very limited services right in Winnett, and so trying to fill some needs has definitely expanded part of what we're doing beyond just sustaining our ranches, but looking at other things within the community, housing and daycare and all of that. And also working really closely with a local Snowy Mountain development out of Lewistown, Montana, has been really important too. They've been an important partner with what we're doing. And so, all right, Jennifer, I'll let you jump in again.
I guess just kind of thinking about as you were seeing some of the pictures go through, you saw a few that included kind of smaller groups of folks. So one of those has been from our annual pasture walk events, which are land health specialists. She started having those, and then also having a pasture golf annual event. And with that particular picture that you saw in 55 Main building, one of our other kind of community enhancement projects that had to be moved inside just due to weather. But really trying to engage both the actual kind of those folks who might just live in town, but also engaging our ranchers and farmers in the area and having several different opportunities for just a very diverse group of people come together, and they may just be visiting if it's a more of a social type event, or able to visit with each other on more specific topics that or challenges that they might be experiencing.
Okay, sorry, I'm not good at this. Okay, I'll get it in just a sec.
Did you want us to go ahead and start talking about the structure? Have Corey and Emma kind of
Yeah, I'll have Corey and Emma talk about if you guys want to jump in and share about Siskiyou County and give us a little context for the community up there. That'd be great. And I will get your slides up.
Great, we can do that. So in Siskiyou County, we're the 5th largest county in the state by geography. And if you think of California, the state has everything from like, you know, urban spaces and educational networks. And here we are at the top of the state in kind of a different way, as I mentioned before. But I can say that in 2019, the state of California wrote a document, and they focused on the working landscapes, what they called sector. And so they really not divided, but defined and parsed out all the parts of fishing and forestry and agriculture. And it felt like a visionary document in a way statewide. And so we saw that document and we felt a little bit seen, right? They were using some terms and some acknowledgments that we could really relate to in our area. Especially, again, California is really proud of its agriculture, and I felt like they were starting to see all the uniqueness in the state, including us as part of that story. So meanwhile, we're kind of reading all these funding awards, and they all sounded like, if you read them, like these concepts that were saving the American West, the places that made the food, grew the food, and the people that live there. And so we said to ourselves, we have to tell our story in a way that it makes it sound like it's saving the American West, because we feel that. And we just got brave enough to start saying it and believing it and writing it, even though we're a county of 44,000. And so we really felt connected to this working landscapes concept. And so we started presenting our desire to do really great work in these spaces in channels that were not traditionally prominently agriculture. And when I say they, and I'll tell you guys what that means in a minute, they said yes. And so if you think about a traditional small business development center, we told them how we wanted to work in agriculture innovation, and they said yes. The state of California developed an innovation program for business and technology. And we pitched them agriculture, and they said yes. And when you read these things, it all sounded like technology and data. But when we were brave enough to apply and say, look, that agriculture is innovation, and it is future, and it is research, and it's food, it's so many things in so many ways, they kept saying yes. And so and then the next one was a climate collaborative in California. And we, again, presented our network of stakeholders and our needs and our place and our urgencies through the lens of agriculture. And they said yes as well. So that just means 3 major entities in California at the state level had connected with us and were about ready to fund our work in agriculture. And it was just a very exciting time. And so now we feel like we can show and share and present the outcomes of this kind of like, again, it's not brave new work to us, but it was a brave new place that we started demanding attention and focus on agriculture in Siskiyou County. So with that said, we're going to tell you what we've developed that's been really amazing for our region. We've been able to bring top tier expertise to Siskiyou. So we brought the Dave Pratt workshop series to Siskiyou County several times so that people who lived here could experience that. I'll just call it skill up, that technical assistance. We focused workshops on succession. I heard somebody talk about today, I love it. Keeping working lands in working hands is a really great and relevant slogan for us. So we're bringing these top of the mind experts to our region. We developed a food brand called Siskiyou Farm Co., and we started lifting up places where people could buy that and understand our products locally. And then we formed the Siskiyou Climate Collaborative, and that's something we'll share with you guys about mostly in a little bit, about how we brought 6 totally different and diverse stakeholders to the table and how that work is actually helping to advance some awareness and understanding and collaboration in agriculture. So I hope that's a good first pitch to you guys about who we are and where we are and how we got really brave. And it's been really rewarding, and we want to share more today, but we hope that's a good start.
And I can give you a little bit of context about like Siskiyou County. Corey mentioned we're a very large, geographically diverse county in California. So we have everything from high mountain, mostly mountainous county. We also have a little bit of high desert in the eastern portion of our county. And our agriculture, for the most part, looks like rangeland, forage crops, beef. And then in the eastern part of our county, we actually have the largest strawberry start production nursery, I think, in the world. And it's a major, major moneymaker over there, but that's kind of its own little insular thing. So for the most part, we have a lot of multi-generational, kind of traditional cow-calf / hay ranches in Siskiyou County. So just to give a little bit of context, it's probably similar to Montana, what you're seeing over there, Brenda and Jennifer as well.
Thanks, you guys. And yeah, please put questions, thoughts, keep going in the chat. And if you do have, you want to come off mute, please feel free to do that as well. We're a small group here today, so we can keep this interactive and conversation based. Brenda and Jennifer, if you want to share a little bit about the structure of when it ACEs with the board and then the committees, and because I think that's unique and interesting, and I think particularly how it maintains the connection to the community and the community's needs.
Yeah, I can start a little bit kind of going back on the history side of things. You know, we started as that group of ranchers primarily meeting and developed a board, became a nonprofit, and it was a couple years before we had staff. But as that evolution took place, we had several different areas that we were working on and interested in. And the conservation committee formed that worked with, we were able to start a cost share program where we grant local producers funds for projects. And so that formed a committee that then kind of helped set the structure of the organization, in that the committee does that business as far as the conservation projects go. Those applications go to the committee, and the committee makes a recommendation to the board. And then the board makes that final action on it. And so that's then kind of the basic structure that we've set up with other projects and things too. And along the way, there were several things, and some of the things that really helped kind of kickstart the organization. One was getting beef into the local school. And that one happened really quickly, and was a real motivator for the organization as a whole, because that project went so well. And then that actually was handed over to a completely separate board and the school, and ACES just is a cheerleader for it now. It's not within our organization. And so that structure too has kind of been there of, if people want to bring in an idea, and we can help find a way to support that, whether it's through volunteer time, some staff services, grant writing, just pointing people in a direction. We try to do that. So I'll hand it over to Jennifer to talk more about all the details, where we're at now.
Sure. Yeah. So as Brenda already mentioned, the Conservation Committee, and then we also have a Community Enhancement Committee and an Education and Outreach Program Committee, and then a Land Committee. And the Land Committee, they usually don't meet on a super consistent basis. It's actually working and collaborating with another grassroots organization north of the Missouri River called Ranchers Stewardship Alliance, and collaborating on sort of continuously searching for a possible opportunity as to like a ranch operation to purchase. And that would have maybe more of an opportunity to turn into a grass bank for either young producers who are needing some additional grazing options, or just area producers in general that might run into issues or kind of hardships, whether it be drought or other instances or situations. So I'll talk real quick on the whole staff of Winnet ACES. We have a total of 7 staff members. 4 of those are full-time and 3 are part-time. But also, Winnet ACES has served as the fiscal sponsor for our local daycare and the rangeland monitoring group. And I think Bree mentioned that briefly too, kind of talking about possible research opportunities. So yeah, and honestly, ACES has grown quite a lot in the past year and a half. So it's been really fun and exciting kind of working through that additional growth, and just talking through all of the different things and ideas that we're that we're gearing up to work on even more. I wanted to mention with the Conservation Committee, you know, we do have our conservation programs manager, but then also a conservation technician, and kind of thinking about issues that I'm sure all of you are currently facing and working through, just thinking about the overall goal of succession planning, trying to keep our lands in working hands. And our conservation committee has gradually been starting to implement some changes towards that with the rangeland improvement program. That application will is currently being a little bit redesigned, where it will include some specific questions for the applicant to answer in regards to what they've sort of thought about in terms of succession planning. And depending on those answers, then here at ACES we'll be able to help steer them towards additional resources if that's what's holding them up, if they need contacts for a facilitator that they would like to come in or have a virtual option for. We'd like to be able to help provide further information on that. And then also the application will ask them what their grazing plan will look like with the project that they would like to do on their place. But yeah, definitely succession planning has kind of turned into a little bit more of a priority for us, and trying to seek out different ways that we can help with that, help make it a little easier.
I see a question in the chat about how we're funded. Do you want us to go ahead and?
Yeah, if you guys want to answer that, and then we'll ask Corey and Emma to answer the same.
Okay.
Great. Yeah.
We are primarily grant funded. And as of yesterday, we're more funded than we were. We had funds unfrozen yesterday, thank goodness. And several different lots of different sources as far as grant funding goes, and that that has been, and I noticed in I'm going to jump to some of your notes, Jennifer, of we have the conversation, we go back to our mission statement quite often on not just chasing funding, but or if there's funding available, do you jump on that even though it doesn't really maybe fit what we were planning on doing. And so we are strategic with that, and work with partners often on funding and trying to coordinate to and that's where actually our conservation committee is really important for some of that, because we include a lot of partners in that committee, and so everybody comes to the table, and we as ACES have a certain amount of funding, but then the partners may be bringing in funding too. But as we're seeking funding, we're also trying to make sure that we're not competing, and who would be best to be seeking that funding, where would it fit best, trying to collaborate there also. Jennifer, I'll let you get into a little bit of the specifics on the funding sources. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I guess some of our funding sources, I'm trying to recall. I mean, some of our partners are able to provide a pretty significant amount of funding, just going back to our mission, like Brenda said. I mean, one of our really good partners is World Wildlife Fund and their ranching initiative, but also working with the Nature Conservancy and NIFWF.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess just in kind of touching a little bit on collaboration and partners, just thinking about some of the overall topics that was included on Bree's flyer and information. We here at ACES, just with our increased number of staff members, really trying to be strategic in our overall capacity in the number of partners that we want to work with, and also taking a close look as to who are those partners who are actually wanting to build a relationship with us and not just include, say, our ACES logo on a flyer, on promotional materials, or even include the name in a grant application. So I know that we've already had a few of those instances just with all of our additional staff and capacity, and yeah, just kind of reminding ourselves as to who we want to work with, and do they really want to get to know us, get to know our organizations, and community is another big piece of it. Some of our really good partners, they make it a point to be here at meetings in person or virtual, but also trying to make a point as to attending community events. So that's really good to have a good relationship to have.
I think it's interesting that you guys have such there's like a big magnifying lens, I feel like, on your geography, right, of the like Northern Great Plains region, and a lot of interest from yeah, all kinds of groups, right? Big national groups and even international. And so how your guys's organizations, both, I mean, you Win at ACES and RSA, are navigating that and that interest level, but maintaining that local voice. And then I think like with Siskiyou County, like, I don't know, sometimes I feel like Northern California, right? We're kind of like the forgotten part of the state. And so there's not as much of a magnifying lens, but there were these opportunities, and you guys mentioned like with the innovation centers and these other opportunities that were coming up. And it was a little bit of a flip of like, how do we get some interest in our rural communities in California? And again, like kind of the opposite problem, but the structure of it and the conversation and the local effort, being able to bring it together and have that local voice to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. And so can you guys talk a little bit more about that, and just some of what yeah, how you what are some of the funding sources you kind of mentioned with the state, but how, again, like how your structure, we heard about like the committee structure with Win at ACES, but you guys also have like this neat structure with EDC as like an umbrella to then these cool efforts that are spinning off.
Yeah, we'd love to share. The Economic Development Council is the central agency that has provided some of the strength, some of the vision, some of that like daringness. I mentioned daringness to get into places where we don't realize we don't belong, but we make sure we do belong, and there we are. We laugh about that a lot. And so just as an organization, we adopted that ethos, and here we are, and we're really proud of it. Along the way, Jennifer mentioned the authenticity of partnerships and the difference between really being in it with somebody or just like logo borrowing. And so we definitely experienced that, or even have accidentally done it, to someone else because we're so busy. But the point of the story is when you think about those 7 really authentic partnerships that you do have, we have a list of what those mean to us, and we have that embodied. So there's an organization at Chico State that feels really connected to our work in our region. So we feel like we have that academic partner in it with us. And so when we go forward in these applications, and we can cite that partnership. Also the UC system has a cooperative extension here in Wairika with a really great farm advisor who specializes in livestock and pasture lands. That being a really great partnership between our organizations as well. We do a lot of co-sharing of the programs that we're developing because we really share mission in what each other are doing. And so we can partner really nicely with them as well. And then it starts to get really, then we get into the uniquer spaces, right? We have a local resource conservation district who is appointed by the county. So that has some governmental, I'm going to call it, reliability, but they're actually not funded. And so they do a really good job of seeking out land use projects to be funded. And there's a lot of different avenues for that. But they've developed great trust with landowners in agriculture and water and forestry. And when we looked around our county and we said, who is here and strong? We could see that they were a partner and the UC was a partner and we were a partner. We have a local workforce agency. They became a partner. And so this is this collective that we've most recently developed. And it is a climate collective or a climate collaborative, which is really unique and kind of sensitive in this area. But we put together a group of diverse stakeholders to think and work and meet. And so that we can go back to the people that we represent and come together. So like a hub and spoke model. The expertise just got larger by bringing in some diverse partners. One is a partner in outdoor recreation, and one is a partner representing the Karuk tribe. So we didn't put together an everybody is agriculture group. We put together a threesome buddies were agriculture, and a fourth and fifth, still are interested or care or sometimes don't see things the same. But when we had a collaborative, we could build some empathy, some shared work. It's really, really great when you find the topics that everybody wants to talk about, because then it becomes really easy. So some of these projects, we talk about having multi-benefits for everyone. We talk about prescribed burning, and total watershed health. And so there are some areas where we can really collaborate together and find a lot of momentum. So I gave a little bit of a look at like this idea of bigger partners and then diverse partners that we have built strength and trust around and with. And I'll just ask Emma what else she uniquely has to add. We have a healthy soils program where we're able to sub-award funds in that way. But I'll let Emma take some time here because she's really contributed in all of these spaces.
So I'll just give an like overview of the EDC. Like Corey said, that's kind of like our umbrella, right? And then the EDC is a traditional 501c4 nonprofit with a board, et cetera. So we are grant funded, federal, state grants. We also have partnerships with our jurisdictions in our county and with the county itself that they pay a little bit of money in, and we do work on their economic development work on their behalf. So that's kind of our funding structure. It's primarily grants, like I said, federal and state grants. Then we kind of split up into different kind of programs, and Working Lands is one of our programs, which a lot of the programs that Corey and I work in fall under that program. We also have the Small Business Development Center and then a tourism arm called Discover Siskiyou. And these all kind of bleed together, and all of them touch agriculture, right? Because, I mean, like we've mentioned, we're a very agricultural county. And so that's kind of the structure and funding, of EDC overall. So we're always looking, I mean, like Corey said, we have built these very strong partnerships that are authentic and real in our work, but we're always looking to expand those partnerships. And, yeah, we're chasing, like Corey said, sometimes we're in spaces that we're like, should we be here? Are we invited to this? But we're always chasing that. And we definitely want to make sure that we make, Siskiyou County known and what we're all about known, and the agriculture industry in particular known.
I would love to hear a couple from both groups. With like the funding and you said like kind of being in these spaces that you feel like, should we be here or not? What are those decision points? And like for would you guys share about like, are there times where you've passed up funding or not pursued an opportunity? And then when you did, like with the daycare, pursue something that was like maybe not in the original vision. So we talk a little about that, and then Siskiyou, I'd love for you guys too to talk about maybe that's how you decide what to pursue and jump into.
Yeah, I'll kind of jump into the daycare story. That a there was a need for a local daycare, and that had been on the list of things that had come to meetings early on, when we were, just brainstorming on how can we help the community. And so that was another area where there was kind of a completely separate committee formed, and they'd report back to ACES on how things were going. And it was kind of a years-long process. And when they were ready, they had all their ducks in a row and were ready to finally open. They were realizing that they really needed to be a nonprofit to be able to apply for more funding and honestly to open their doors. They just didn't have the startup funds to be able to get rolling. And so while operating a daycare was definitely not something that we had initially looked at, and we don't operate. We're the fiscal sponsor for the daycare, and help with some grant writing and support, and have a committee that helps with that. But and that the discussion then just went back to our mission statement, and does this fall within what we want to be doing for the community, and decided that the impact that being able to support the daycare would have on the community was big. And so that's how we ended up being the fiscal sponsor for the daycare. And that might not be a long-term thing if they're able to go out on their own at some point, that's great. But for now it's working well to do this. And so yeah, that's that story. And I think we have, I know there have been things that we funding we did not decide to pursue, and there's different conversations that are had with that of, does it is this coming from a source that we want to be associated with, and maybe it's a good opportunity for funding, but does their mission align with our mission? And the requirements for that funding, do we feel comfortable with that? And that those are the conversations. And is it worth it? That's always one. So those are kind of the basics. I'll let Jennifer jump in with anything else on that.
I guess the only other thing that I would add is just thinking about the whole concept of rural resiliency. And we live in a very remote place, and with more whether it be younger folks moving back, or families trying to move back, or just in general, noticing a little bit of an uptick in folks just having the desire to move to the area in general, just trying to seek out what would make our town, our county, our area even more desirable. What do people really need to kind of thrive here, I guess, is how I see it too. And just kind of a question that I think we've started to ask more and more, just thinking about maybe different ideas or projects that people approach us about, or say, hey, is this something that ACES can help with? Or if it's something that we can just connect them to an already existing service, then we can go that route rather than reinventing the wheel. So
yeah. And I would guess, Corey and Emma, you guys probably experience this too, that with people recognize your name, and so you end up being the contact. And for other organizations, they reach out to you because they know you're in that community. And sometimes it's with things that don't necessarily fall within our parameters of ACES. or that we weren't expecting them to. But so we have that conversation of, okay, who can we refer them to? Because this would be a good thing for our community, but maybe not something we want to take on. And so I think, I'm sure Jennifer I send those people to Jennifer, and let her decide.
Corey and Emma, can you guys talk about, like, especially with the climate collective or collaborative, like you noted, right, in rural California, that, yeah, how did that evolve, and how did those conversations look, and to decide to pursue that effort? Obviously, it's highly relevant in the larger state of California, but to bring that opportunity to rural California.
You know, I want to be clever and memorable as I tell the story, and I want to do my very best. We have a board of directors, and so when we went to them with the idea that we wanted to apply for this climate collaborative funding, they were like, "You want to do what? We barely even want to use the word climate, and we definitely don't want to use adaptation or mitigation." And so there was runway to use the term resiliency. And when I say things that really work when everybody likes the thing, the idea of resiliency really resonated with a lot of different people, to strengthen our own region against the threat of wildfire, to build strength in all areas for that. We started to find that just the lens at that time of climate resiliency could take us a lot of places we actually needed to go as a rural place. And this can be like, you know, do we actually have housing when people are displaced that people can move into? Oh, look, we actually have a housing problem. So you could start to point a lot of things to climate solutions, and it was like a framework we could sort of land in for a minute. And we also pride on ourselves on early adopters. So even if something is unfamiliar, unpopular, or scary, we can spend some time mucking around in it before it becomes a more widely accepted idea or concept. Because if cities do it or the county does it, they're subject to a lot of public scrutiny, you know, and we can kind of do some behind the scenes early work in some areas to help introduce concepts that might otherwise be difficult. And so our board was like, okay, go ahead. And then each partner had to go to their boards and do the same thing. And you can imagine every board, you know, in tribal government had a careful conversation about the level of trust they had working with these people, you know, and these people, we were these people, and our agriculture partner was these people. And the tribe can feel like we can feel against each other in this space. And everybody did give permission and felt safe to work together on this. And that was daunting and exciting. And then we went through the competitive process to the state to apply. It was several applications and an interview. So here we are, we go into this interview with the state panel, and we brought all of our partners, and we went through a series of questions, and all the partners spoke, and they said nothing and gave no facial expression of if they liked us or not. And I was like, I don't know, you guys. I don't know if they even liked us. Later on, we find out they liked us second best. That means we finished this whole process second, and they still go, "Oh my gosh, Siskiyou County is my favorite." And I'm like, you guys didn't even crack a nod or a smile in our interview. But we came to them as really authentic people. You know, we weren't corporations, we weren't big government, we didn't have huge fancy titles. We were just normal people who lived in this place that we cared a lot about, and it resonated, and it worked all the way to the top. And so basically what I mean is, of the 6 other collaboratives in the state of California in this network, we're the only ones that are rural. We're the only ones that have an economic development lead. We just look like such of what we are, and they're seeing that and they appreciate that, and it's just really interesting. So again, remember, this story started with our board saying, you want to do what? And this idea that we have created a place for us to muck around and be early adopters in some things that others just aren't ready yet, but they're catching up. And this has been part of that gentling, I guess, and softening of a lot of hard edges and a lot of hard corners. And it is fun to see, and it's really rewarding to be part of good progressive conversations and thought and work to help us continue these ways of life in some really challenging settings for ranchers and farmers to get to continue to do this work on their land. So, Emma, what are your thoughts?
I'll just add that, yeah, I mean, Brenda, you said this, but yes, everyone knows mine and Corey's names in Siskiyou County, right? So when we're talking about climate, we can say, well, gosh, if not us, who? You
Yes.
know, like let us talk about it, right? So let us learn and let us partner and let us do that work for you, right? Corey and I both come from ranching families, so we're able to kind of be those pillars of like, you know, you can come to us, you can talk to us about this, and we'll, you know, we'll gentle it. I like that term.
Yeah.
You know, we'll make it digestible, and you know, we'll represent our interests, right? So I think that's a huge part of it too. And another thing is getting that message out. And I think this is universally true, but if anything affects agriculture, it's climate, right? That's kind of the baseline of our industry. So we have to talk about it, regardless of our opinion or any politicization of it. It's something we have to talk about. And so that's kind of been a through line for me in this climate collaborative as well.
One thing I want to leave everybody with is this idea that there's a lot of new language in agriculture that feels new. And I love reminding lots of people that sometimes what's old is new again, and representing the older ways that were amazing, amazing strategies in agriculture and safe and good stewardship, and that some of like our parents and fathers, and translating that they were good stewards of land and they were developing incredible settings for birds and wildlife at the same time. And we're all about the new language and the new excitement, but I love translating the beauty of the prior generations and what they were doing, and reminding everybody sometimes, you know, what's new was old, or what's old is new again, and that those prior generations were doing some really great things, and that they still are, to contribute to this. And so thanks for letting me share that in our last minute.
Thanks, Corey. Which reminds me, I have to tell you guys, as we were preparing for this, this was the first time Corey and I met, but it's really cool because we're actually like distant cousins. So I have family from Siskiyou County, and I love it up there. And so yeah, that was exciting to finally meet Corey. Okay, we are at our time, but thank you so much, everybody, for joining in, listening. Corey and Emma for sharing your story, Jennifer and Brenda for sharing your story. This was great. I love it. We did record it. We will make the recording available. Again, we have 2 more sessions coming up in May and June, last Friday of the month. We also have a Rancher Coffee Hour next Tuesday morning at 7 Pacific. The registration link is on the same page at the California Rangeland website. So if you want to join us for that, and yeah, thank you again. Thank you, Robin and California Rangeland Trust, for hosting us again. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.